Annalise Nielsen, thank you so much for joining me. Where did these emails come from and how credible are they?
Well, that's the big question. The New York Times has posted an explainer now that they've been censored, saying that they were on a laptop that was given to a technician by Hunter Biden, but then left there for more than 90 days and therefore abandoned. He then handed over these emails and the laptop itself, and that's the big question. He says he's handed it to investigators, but also Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, who's now handed them on to the New York Times to make them public. So they're saying it's been hacked, and that's why Twitter is saying that they've had to block the publication of this story. But the question is, could it be hacked if you've left it behind? And then that also goes counter to the Biden argument that they're not real.
Yeah, well, I didn't notice the New York Times or Twitter or Facebook having any trouble publishing Donald Trump's stolen tax records, but different rules apply when it goes the other way, I guess. The Biden campaign's response. I understand they've said that they've gone through Joe Biden's diaries and they can't see any record of a meeting with this Burisma executive. But what has Joe Biden himself said? Has he come out and said anything personally?
No, not yet, and you can bet that this will be asked of the presidential candidate, especially with these town halls tomorrow evening that are running simultaneously, the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign, on what should have been the second presidential debate night. But his campaign said, as you mentioned, that they haven't seen any record of this meeting, but they also haven't ruled out an informal meeting. And that goes to the crux of this entire story, the fact that Hunter Biden was taking money to be an advisor for this natural gas company in Ukraine, the connection to Joe Biden leading Ukraine's the Ukrainian response for the White House in the Obama administration, and then having previously been on the record saying he helped get rid of a prosecutor for corruption that at the same time was looking into Hunter Biden's company. You can't underestimate how much this will impact the election cycle. I can't tell you how many people we've spoken to, especially Trump supporters, that say that they like Donald Trump because he's a businessman, he's not involved in politics, and the sense of using your political office for gain is going to impact those people who might be thinking about Joe Biden. But we know that Donald Trump hasn't exactly had the cleanest record either, and so it's just kind of going to turn a lot of people off from the entire process altogether.
So is Joe Biden's campaign, well, dare I say, given where you are, where you're standing, is it cactus if this is true?
No, it's not cactus at all. I think especially this year, so many people are voting early. These stories are really hard to gain momentum. What's really interesting is the censorship has now driven more of the coverage than it would have otherwise, really, because so many high-profile people have come out and said that you shouldn't be censoring this kind of journalism. As you very accurately say, we don't know where Donald Trump's tax returns came from, but he certainly didn't release them. So you can assume that something somewhat nefarious happened there, but good journalism happens when this information gets out. And so you need to give it the chance to be made public and let the public make their decisions on how important this is. And so it's going to play really awfully, just the fact that they're trying to stop the American voter knowing what information matters to them.
I think it's been a shocking look, and their excuses for doing this, Facebook and Twitter, keep changing. I mean, when I wanted to click on the story initially, I was told that, you know, my computer could be at risk. I mean, it was just absolutely dreadful, not allowed to pass on the story. I've never seen anything like it. It's so extraordinary. The polls, Annalise, say that Donald Trump's going to lose this election and, you know, Joe Biden's got a huge advantage. I don't know, you know, I'm wary about questioning polls too much, although they were so wrong last time. I have to say, though, Donald Trump's body language at his campaign rallies the last couple of days suggests that he reckons he's going to win it. Can you explain the signs that would give him that confidence?
Well, I mean, you have to have confidence. If he starts to look like he's not confident, people are going to lose confidence in him, especially in a country like America where that kind of attitude really sells. But I can tell you the time I've spent on the ground here, I think there's a few factors that are going to really make this much closer than people realise, and that's the attitude towards coronavirus. When we look at it from the outside, it looks like America's absolute chaos, but so many people here, it hasn't changed their day-to-day life. They're still working. They don't know anyone who's had it. They haven't had it themselves, and they're frustrated with the lockdowns, and so they want to see that open back up again. And you look at the map and it looks awful, but when you go day to day and talk to people, most of them ask me to take my mask off so they can understand me. They don't care about distancing, that kind of thing. It's just a very different attitude. One of the really important questions we've been making sure we ask everyone is your life better or worse than it was 4 years ago? And it's remarkable how many people still feel like their lives are better, or at least the same. They don't personally feel like it got a lot worse. And I think one of the really deciding things here is going to be where suburban voters sit. You can really assume those people in the big cities are going to vote Democrat, rural areas lean Republican. It's those cities, and that's where they've had the varying impact of coronavirus, and also where women are still frustrated. And I can tell you a lot of them are bringing up law and order with me. They're not bringing up even having Amy Coney Barrett sit there for days and talk about potentially overruling access to safe and legal terminations in this country, and it hasn't factored into their decision making unless there's a real upswell of people, Democrats, getting their votes in. If they just sit there and feel unenthusiastic, it could very well be a Trump victory.
Well, that's a very interesting analysis. Annalise Nielsen, thank you so much indeed for your time.